Hello and welcome to Coach's Decision, a weekly talk show where we talk about sports from the Bay Area and beyond. A very special week this week. Joaquin is out on assignment in Chicago, so filling in for him, TortureCast's own Chad King. How are you doing, Chad?
Fantastic, Thomas.
Any good diving stories lately?
No sharks sighted today.
No sharks sighted. Okay,
No,
we're going to have a fun show tonight because we're going to talk about baseball. Joaquin secretly hates baseball. I'm going to call him out for it. But Chad is super into it. We have another guest here today, Ken Keegan. So Ken Keegan's a sponsor of our show. He can come on whenever he wants, honestly. But he wants to come on and talk about the Mets. And we're super excited about the Mets because, Chad, who are the Mets playing?
You know what? I think I mentally blocked that.
It's the Doyers. They're playing the Los Angeles Dodgers, and none of us can be more excited and hopeful for the Mets. So let's kick the show off. First, we're going to do some ad reads, and then we're going to talk about the Mets. To support our show, please go to fanatics.com or fansedge.com. Both of those websites. Click through our website, coachesdecisionksco.com. Click through to those sites. We have links up. Save over 20% on thousands of items. Every sport, college athletics, NFL, MLB, everything you could ever imagine is on those two websites. So once again, go through our site, Coach's Decision, KSCO, and click through to fanatics.com and fansedge.com. Okay, here we go. Ken, 1 to 10, what is your level of excitement for this playoffs?
Well, even though my shirt says keep calm and carry on, I'm super stoked.
So what you said you saw something on Facebook. What was the joke about the Yankees?
Well, what's the difference between the Yankees hot dogs and the dogs that you get at Citi Fields?
What's the difference?
You can still get them at Citi Fields.
Oh. And I've been to Citi Field. That's a fun ballpark. New Yankee Stadium's cool too, but right now that's where the action is going to be taking place. So a couple quick stories. Matt Harvey, the Gotham Dark Knight or whatever they call him, misses his workout, stuck in traffic. I know that's a New York problem more than a California problem, at least a Northern California problem. Does that concern you? Does he seem like he has his head in the game?
Nah, he's cool. He gets fired up for the game. This is all like BS. And I drove in the city. I used to do catering. I'd get calls. I said, I'll be there in a half an hour. I'm 2 blocks away. So, yes, it's very possible that he's telling the truth.
Chad, does that concern you at all? He's not going to pitch until Game 3, which is Monday. Missing a workout 6 days prior, is that anything to you?
No, it means nothing to me. But what I think is going to be interesting is if, the Mets lose the first 2 games of the series.
You're talking about because Greinke, Kershaw, Greinke?
Yeah, if they do it. I mean, there's a pretty good possibility that's going to happen. And then you have Harvey in Game 3. And it's a 3-game, best of, basically. And so if Harvey has a clunker that night, it's going to be the New York media that are going to come down on him. And I think they're going to magnify it. And it's not justified, but it's New York media. So I think if he loses Game 3 and they get swept, they're absolutely going to crucify him. And they're going to say that was a distraction, and that's what contributed to his poor performance and them getting swept. It's unjustifiable, but that's what's going to happen.
Well, what would be even worse is if they're up 2-0 or up, or even 1-1, and then he blows that game, and then Mets go into a tailspin and they lose. That would be even worse, I think.
And that's a possibility, but I think the whole sweep thing is going to be the worst case scenario. But you're right. I mean, I think the New York media is going to glom on to anything that they can that Harvey has kind of disappointed them on.
I think there's the most pressure on Harvey of any of these 3 guys. They're going to start DeGrom in Game 1 versus Kershaw and Syndergaard in Game 2 against Zach Greinke. You clearly, on paper, want to look at the Dodgers as having the advantage, but Jacob DeGrom has pitched so well this season. Ken, what have you seen from him this year? Is he the true ace of the team?
I said that at the very beginning. He's the man. Harvey is good, but DeGrom is the spirit. He's like Lincecum when Lincecum was at his best, just happy-go-lucky, and he spreads it and everything. And about the sweep, I think the Dodgers might win 1 game.
Okay, all right.
There you go.
All right, Chad, well, we're going to look at Clayton Kershaw because he is the focus of this series. Starting Game 1, his poor performance in the past in the playoffs. I have some numbers I'm going to throw at you. 51 career playoff innings, 5.12 ERA, 1 career playoff win in 8 starts. That's basically the opposite of Madison Bumgarner, who is not as good of a regular season pitcher as Clayton Kershaw, but has shined in the big moments in the playoffs. How long does Kershaw get to prove himself in the playoffs?
If you look at his numbers against other teams other than the Cardinals, it's really not that bad. I mean, granted, he hasn't had a lot of wins, but he's actually performed fairly well.
But he gave up 8 earned runs to the Cardinals in his second-to-last playoff start last
Well,
season.
exactly. So what does that tell you psychologically? Even when he accepted the Cy Young and the MVP award at the Baseball Writers' Dinner, he actually said at the very end, I've done so much in my career, damn you Cardinals, something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing.
Thank you, Cardinals, for knowing that I'm not the best.
So, I mean, the fact that he brings that up in his MVP Cy Young speech indicates to me, and I think a lot of other people, that it is something psychological in his head. So I think he probably will perform well against the Mets. But, if they do make it to the NLCS against the Cards, if they also advance, I think it's going to be another issue.
I think this is the last chance that Dodger fans will give him emotionally because they spent a lot of time defending him. But this is it. I mean, this is 5 postseasons or at least 4 postseasons with Kershaw as the ace or as one of the main players in the rotation. It's time, man. You got to step up eventually. You got to show it in the big moments. This is why Derek Jeter was not just a star, why he was a celebrity, why he was a legend, why he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Not only did he have good regular season numbers, but he did it in the playoffs, and he won championships. Kershaw needs to show something, and I'm almost even rooting for him because I feel so bad that he's done so much for that team, but has not been able to win them a series by himself or at least slingshot them into the World Series.
Yeah, DeGrom could, completely shut them down. It could be another bad luck. He could get caned in Game 1.
The
We
Dodgers
don't know
lineup
that.
is not that good.
Exactly. Their offense is horrible. Their regular season record wasn't that great. But as we all know, I mean, pitching is king in the playoffs, and obviously Mad Bum carried the Giants last year. But if Kershaw and Greinke are on key, they're absolutely going to dominate the Mets.
Okay, well, let's talk about some other series. And Ken, if you don't watch anyone but the Mets, we love you for it. But feel free to jump in. I know you know a lot about CC Sabathia because he plays for your crosstown rival. CC Sabathia enters rehab the day before or 2 days before the Yankees are going to play an AL Eliminator wild card game. Now, he wasn't going to start the game or anything, but he should have been there for his teammates. He should have been there in relief in case they needed him. They go on to lose that game. Did that have anything to do with CC? Do you think he distracted the team at all, or is that just narrative?
Are you asking
Ken,
me?
yeah.
I feel sorry for him. If he had to do it that day, it had to be pretty damn serious.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he could have waited, but maybe because it was so serious, he had to say it right then.
Yeah, what I've read, it was the weekend before in Baltimore where it really hit ahead and he really had like some sort of downward spiral. I'm just picturing like Jake LaMotta, Raging Bull, like turning over tables and slamming shots. I don't know what had to happen in order for that to happen after game 162 of the season and not after game 163. Chad, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, we all read the same reports that he went on a bender, an epic bender after they clinched, and apparently it was Friday through Sunday.
Oof.
And he woke up Sunday. I mean, we've all had benders before.
Like
I don't
brunch
think
benders, though. Like,
I don't
the
think
next
I've
day
gone
with your
Friday to
friends.
Sunday. I've gone Friday into the wee hours of Saturday, but not into Sunday. And I think, by all reports, he just basically had an epiphany, and he said, I have a problem. And he said, I'm not even a big drinker, which sounds like that's debatable. But
Yeah.
Point being, he recognized a problem in his life, and so he called up Cashman and not Tory. What's his face?
Girardi, Joe Girardi.
Thank you. Tory.
Producer Tory, right out there.
And he admitted his problem. And so I think on one hand, it's actually very brave of him to do so because he wasn't going to be needed in the wild card game. But at the same time, it is a distraction for the team. I don't think it had anything to do with last night. That was all Dallas Keuchel. But at the same time, it is a distraction.
Okay, well, that transitioned just nicely because I have another question for you guys. Talking about the Astros-Royals series coming up and the Astros win over the Yankees. Is Dallas Keuchel this year's Madison Bumgarner? Can he be that guy? Because he seems to be in a zone right now. Him and maybe Arrieta could be the guy to propel their team solo to a World Series. But Keuchel looked great last night.
Yeah, those are the two guys that I think have the potential. And there's been that question out on a lot of the sports Twitters saying, like, who's going to be this year's Mad Bum? But last night it really was seeing a left-hander on the mound kind of bringing back those memories of Mad Bum last year.
Well, and he didn't go the whole game. I think they allowed the bullpen to close the door for 3 innings because he was pitching on 3 days rest, which is another thing Mad Bum had no trouble doing last postseason. So, Ken, who do you have in the Astros-Royals series? Who do you like?
Well, I love Altuve.
Okay.
And so I just like he's a little guy, just does everything. That little hit that he hit the other night with just flicked it out there was amazing.
Well, you and I are tall guys.
Yeah.
We're tall guys, so to watch a guy like that have no strike zone, have almost no range at his defensive position because his arms and legs aren't that long, it's pretty entertaining to watch, and he's such a fantastic talent.
Yeah. No, I'm rooting for him. I like Kansas City. I think had their spot last year. All right, move along.
Move along. Wow, you had your turn. Ken Keegan dissing the Royals. I like it. Jays Rangers is another fun one, I think, because both teams can hit massive amounts of home runs. Mitch Moreland, if you look at the clutch numbers, has been one of the 2 or 3 most clutch players in Major League Baseball this season, and he's like the 3rd or 4th best player on his team. Any love for this series? Do you think that one of these teams can win the World Series, Chad?
Blue Jays all the way. I don't think there's really a chance for the Rangers to win unless David Price falls on his face. He's going to pitch at least 2 games in the series if it goes more than 3. And that in itself is going to give them 2 out of the 3 wins they need. I think they're going to salvage a win somewhere else in the other 3 games. And then their offense is insane. They led the league in home runs, and they got probably the MVP. The Rangers had a hot second half, don't get me wrong. But in a short series like this, I don't see how the Blue Jays can lose.
They got Tulowitzki back, too. I don't care. If he's half, he's still great. And of course, there's the Mets connection with Dickey, so I'll root for him.
Ken, you're such a homer. I love it. I'm looking at the run differential. Blue Jays lead the league in 221, scoring 221 more runs than they allowed. Texas, of all the playoff teams, it looks like a misnomer. They're only plus 18. The next lowest after that is your Mets with plus 70. Everyone's kind of bunched in there after that. Cardinals plus 122. Everyone's kind of in the middle. But that's a huge run disparity, and it may not happen over 5 games. Anything can happen. But I liked what you said about if David Price falls in his face, that's the only way it really happens. But watch out for Cole Hamels. He's pretty hot lately, and he has a lot of experience succeeding in the postseason.
Josh Hamilton hits 4 home runs.
I think he only did that to the Angels because he was angry, which was the best part of that.
That's true.
Anything else that stands out for you, Chad, that you're looking for in this playoffs? Any trends that you see? Any picks you want to make right now?
I think what's going to be interesting is seeing what happens this year with the wild card, because last year the World Series were the 2 wild cards, and now we have the Astros and the Cubs who have won it, and they're very analytical teams. If you look at how their front office runs things. And I think the Astros have actually beat any predictions of making the postseason. So they're playing with house money right now. And I think that in a way plays to their advantage. So I think they're actually going to play very well against Kansas City. I think they're going to make it to the ALCS. I'm not saying both teams are going to make the World Series, but I do think either the Cubs or the Astros are going to make it there.
I mean, I at least got to watch the first 7 innings of Arrieta absolutely dominate Pittsburgh. We were talking about the bases-loaded jam he got into, but got out of with a double play, got another runner on the next inning, boom, another double play. He's just unhittable. He's had a sub-1 ERA over his last now 21 starts, which no one's ever finished a season like that in the history of baseball. That's one of the best runs ever. I mean, Ken, what's the best run you ever saw? And your lifetime's been much longer than ours. What's the best run you've ever seen? From a pitcher, Fernando Valenzuela, Oral Hershiser,
Doc Gooden, 85.
What a homer!
At 85, I admit, but you saw him after the 86 World Series. He had his CC Sabathia was nothing compared to.
He had it much younger.
Yes,
much younger burnout.
I don't know if you ever saw that movie with him, while he was watching the series, and he was all cooked up.
Oh,
so,
well.
Yeah, when they were doing the parade. He couldn't even make it out of the place, so I can't say nothing against Sabathia. But Doc Gooden, 85, I couldn't miss a game.
And Darryl Strawberry. That was a troubled team.
That was my number, 18.
All right, Ken, well, we're going to do your plug now, because we're going to plug your art. Ken is on artwanted.com. You can look him up by searching his name on artwanted.com. Ken Keegan, Kenkeegan. It'd be weird if I was spelling it wrong the whole time, but I definitely know how to spell your name.
No wonder my spots went down.
Yeah, he's all polite and not correcting you.
Ken's got some new artwork he's brought us in. We're going to give it away over the next couple weeks to some callers. We're going to have some fun with that. But please go support Ken's art. Can't you make coffee mugs, T-shirts? You can do anything with Ken's art. It's really good and it's really fun. Quiet Moon's still my favorite work of yours. I love that one. It's the only thing in the world that calms me down, because nothing ever calms me down.
My sister claimed that right after I painted it. So
good. No, I'm glad it's in the family. I like the art. I like to look at it, even on the internet, where art's not as beautiful as it is hanging on your wall, right. But it's still good. Well, thanks for coming on today, Ken. We're going to root for the Mets.
Good.
If they make it another round, heck, we'll have you on another week. If they don't, we'll never see you again. You'll be in the Alaskan wilderness somewhere.
I'll be crying, my little eyes out.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Ken. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Thomas. Thanks for support.
No problem, sir. I'm going to mute you because you'll keep talking. I know you will. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring on Bay Area sports guy Steve Berman. He's going to talk to us. He wrote a really, really good article about Colin Kaepernick, and I want to talk about it because, Chad, I know you root for the 49ers, correct?
Yeah, of course.
I don't necessarily root for them, but I watch them because they're on. And Kaepernick has just been he's imploded as a quarterback. So, Steve, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on, Thomas.
No problem. BayAreaSportsGuy.com is the website. They cover every Bay Area sport imaginable. Do you guys cover the earthquakes?
We have a couple of guys who've written for the about the earthquakes this year. We haven't covered every game, but I guess compared to most outlets, probably a lot more.
If you cover the earthquakes, then you cover every Bay Area sport imaginable. You wrote this fantastic article. There was a joke in it I loved. There's lots of little points in it that I loved. You took lots of little shots at 49ers management. I'm going to dip into my notes so I can see exactly what you wrote. But tell me your overall thoughts about whose fault is this? Is this Colin Kaepernick's fault? Is this management's fault? Is this somehow Jim Harbaugh's fault? Who takes the blame for the collapse of the 49ers?
Well, it starts from the top, in my view, and that starts with Jed York. And what Jed York did before this season and before last season was set up a situation where he was undermining Jim Harbaugh and his staff to the point where everyone knew before last season started that Harbaugh wouldn't be there. So Harbaugh and Greg Roman especially got a lot of flack last year for the offense, and they seemed to do things that put Colin Kaepernick in situations where he wouldn't be quite as successful. That was sort of the general narrative. They had him going with 4 wideouts, and they didn't really have him running as often as maybe the 49ers front office wanted them to. And now Kaepernick has been awful this year, especially the last 2 games. I mean, especially the Arizona game, 4 interceptions, 2 pick sixes. And then against the Packers, it seemed like he was afraid to throw an interception. He was throwing balls at guys' feet, throwing balls out of bounds. And you kind of see the general tone of everything. You see the 49ers announcers and certain people affiliated with the team just kind of using Kaepernick as a scapegoat for what's been a pretty disappointing season. In my view, he has been set up to completely to fail. They sent him to Arizona to go work out with Kurt Warner's crew down there, and they didn't even know what offense they were going to run because they didn't have an offensive coordinator yet. They hired an offensive coordinator who was the quarterback's coach throughout the entire time Jim Harbaugh was the coach. So you think if you're trying to do a whole new situation, why is G. Christ, who's been there the whole time, the guy that's the secret answer? Actually the answer is he's cheap. The quarterback's coach now is a guy, and don't take offense to this, guys. The quarterback's coach, he was a talk show host in North Carolina last year leading up to this. He wasn't coaching football. Nothing against talk show hosts, but you kind of wonder about a guy's credentials when he wasn't coaching over the last couple of years. He's the guy that's supposed to steer Kaepernick the right way. They have a totally ridiculously obvious offense. They want to run. They want Kaepernick to run. They want Carlos Hyde to run. They have a terrible offensive line, either pass blocking or run blocking, really, this year since the first game. And you have Jed York, Trent Baalke, the general manager, and Jim Tomsula, the embattled head coach, all pretty much telling the world that we want to run the football this year. So defenses, what are you going to do? You're going to stack the box. You know that they're going to run, and so that the offense they have set up is already destined to fail. And Kaepernick, over the last couple of years, with all this turmoil, all this turnover, has totally lost his confidence.
Yeah, when you mention talk show host, Chad starts pointing at me. Now, I know I'm the host. You have your own podcast, sir. You have your own internet media platform where you expound gory details of moronic games nobody wants to watch. You're on notice.
Yeah, that's not a talk show host. That's a podcast host.
Okay. All right. This is a podcast too, my friend. You mentioned a couple things in the article. Everyone saw Anquan Boldin's freak out on the sideline. He's a very passionate guy. But the more quiet moment that you mentioned was Alex Boone and Joe Staley on the sideline. What did you see there?
Well, I noticed it from someone on Twitter telling me, so I rewound and checked it out. And I'm not really a great lip reader. It seems like the word quarterback was definitely said by Alex Boone. who's kind of a guy with some loose lips already. He was the guy who was in love with Harbaugh last year, and then after Harbaugh was fired, told media that he worked us too hard. He's like, bro, we got to the top of the mountain, why keep pushing us? So Alex Boone's a guy who's known to kind of say whatever he wants, whatever's on his mind. He said something, it looked like it's the quarterback is what he said to Staley. I'm not sure if he said it's the quarterback, but for some reason, quarterback was stated on the sidelines, and the 49ers offense was not doing so well at that point, and you kind of wonder if there's any reason why the word quarterback be said in a good context in that situation.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, you need a quarterback in the NFL to be successful. Even someone like Russell Wilson, who's not one of the 3 or 4 best quarterbacks in the world, he is insanely competent. He can make plays. He can extend plays. He does a lot of stuff on the field, and you kind of want Colin Kaepernick to do those things. But right now he's got happy feet. He's underthrowing. He's overthrowing. He just kind of looks panicked back there, and it's starting to steamroll into something that's totally unacceptable, and people are starting to have dreams of Blaine Gabbert, which are the worst kinds of dreams to have. There's a whole coaching staff that's been fired in Jacksonville who still has Blaine Gabbert nightmares when they take naps in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's not exactly, if that's your only plan, and that's really one thing where I think Trent Baalke, the general manager, deserves some flack here too, because they could have drafted a quarterback this year and last year, and they didn't. So Kaepernick, if Kaepernick didn't work out, there was really nothing behind him except for Blaine Gabbert, who, like you said, is not really the best option. So, and then we talk about Russell Wilson. I think Wilson obviously is a better quarterback than Colin Kaepernick, but the distance between the two isn't quite as far, I don't think, as you think. He takes a lot of sacks himself. He's got a bad offensive line. The difference is they have a much better defense right now than the 49ers do. So when he makes mistakes, generally they don't get exacerbated to the point where it's a total game-losing mistake like Kaepernick. Now Kaepernick, I have to say, I said the 49ers ruined Colin Kaepernick because I do believe they set him up to fail. It is true, though. Kaepernick has major shortcomings, but it's not like the 49ers didn't have 4 years of watching this guy, 5 years of watching this guy to learn his shortcomings and tailor an offense around him. At this point, it just seems like everything they've done so far is set up so that when they go 3-13, 4-12, 5-11, whatever, the scapegoat is going to be Kaepernick, because Jed York picked Jim Tomsula to replace Jim Harbaugh. He's not going to say, oh, I made a mistake with a Tomsula hire. They're just going to say, hey, we need a quarterback. Quarterbacks are the basis of this franchise forever, since Joe Montana and John Brody before him. We don't have the right quarterback. It's not Trent Baalke's fault. It's not Jim Tomsula's fault. It's not Jed York's fault. It's not all these other coordinators' faults who aren't really doing that much. It's all Cap. So Cap's going to be the fall guy this year. I mean, it's already guaranteed. It's already set in motion.
This is why we talked to Steve, because he's got the John Brody references just locked and loaded. I was hoping for a YA Tittle addition to that somewhere in there.
Exactly.
Let's transition to your Major League Baseball playoff thoughts, and specifically the NL teams that we know all too well. What are your thoughts on the Dodgers and the Cardinals this year? Do you think either of them has a shot at making a run and making us all really disappointed?
Yeah, I think Cardinals is the team that I would choose, just because it seems like over the last few years in the playoffs, what we've learned is the teams that are basing their offense on power generally don't go as far as people think. So everyone's loving the Blue Jays right now. I think the Cubs are a very popular pick, and they have Jake Arrieta, who's like out of his mind right now. We saw it tonight. And the Dodgers, I think the Dodgers are an interesting team, but beyond their top 2 starters, I'm not really sure. And I'm still not really seeing that bullpen being amazing. I think it's been better since it was in the middle of the season. But the Cardinals, people are kind of sleeping on them. They were by far the best team in the league over the first 3 quarters of the season. It kind of cooled off a little bit, but they're built on pitching, good defense, and getting on base. That's kind of what works in the playoffs. And you've seen the Cardinals do their Red Devil magic quite a few times over the last few years. So I kind of see them making a run to the World Series here.
Interesting. And I like Adam Wainwright coming back in the bullpen, the role he initially started in when they were making their earlier in the decade World Series runs. All right.
The rich get richer.
Yeah, they do. They do. They absolutely do. But they dealt with a lot of injuries this year, so you can't feel too bad, or you kind of feel bad for them. But at the same time, they're the Cardinals and we're Giants fans, so screw them.
Well, that's what's interesting. I mean, we've talked about the Giants' injuries all year long, but if you look at those 2 teams you mentioned, the Cardinals and the Dodgers, they both had pretty much the same kind of injury luck, especially the Cardinals, losing Wainwright for the entire year. I mean, imagine what the Giants would have been if they lost Bumgarner the entire year.
Yeah, but that's the thing about the Cardinals. It's all about depth. There's always another guy waiting in the organization to step up. They've done it for years, and the Giants have been good at that in the last few years, sort of. You know, guys like Matt Duffy, Joe Panik, but not in the way the Cardinals have been.
Yeah, it's kind of disgusting, actually. It's like they have just like these, they're just creating minor league players out of nothing. Like, wait, how'd you get this guy coming up here? Hit Randall Grichuk. Who the hell is this guy? He's hitting 300 and hitting 20 home runs.
They're the Wilmer Valderrama of baseball. There's just always another hot chick willing to come in and date them, even though you don't really know what is your attribute. Like, what does Wilder Valderrama do well? I have no idea.
They have a 3D printer or something now.
Yeah, like at least David Spade is funny, and you can say that's why he gets all the hot chicks.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, Steve. Once again, BayAreaSportsGuide.com. Go on there, read everything about Bay Area sports. Steve, keep spitting hot fire.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks,
go
Thomas.
Slugs,
thanks for having me on.
And go Banana Slugs. We have a bunch of many UCSC people on the show today.
Yes, yeah. I want to say that Santa Cruz is my heart right there. I spent 7 great years there, and I miss it every day.
Okay, well, you're welcome back anytime, Steve. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Oh, man, I love Steve. He's so good. So many slugs. Tory, anthropology, history, Chad.
Marine biology.
You're a marine biologist by trade. We're going to bring on our other friend, Daniel Zarchi. Danny, you went to UCSC. What was your major? Oh, I didn't turn you on. Sorry, Danny. What was your major?
Global econ.
Global econ. And how poor are you right now?
I think my current net worth is negative $160,000.
Very good, very good. It says a lot of good things about the university we went to.
Still law school, huh?
Yeah, it was law school, so it's not totally his fault. All right, well, we're going to do our NFL picks right now. But first, we're going to tell you about our sponsor, Woodstock's Pizza, because that's the best place in California to watch football. There are 7 Woodstock's Pizzas locations in California: San Diego, San Luis Obispo, Isla Vista, Davis, Chico, and right here in Santa Cruz. They all have the NFL Sunday ticket. They all have a ridiculous number of beer taps and delicious, large, heavily topped pizzas that are just absolutely gut-busting and wonderful to zone out in a food coma and drink some beer and watch football. Near and dear to my heart, go to any Woodstock's Pizza. You'll be treated by a bunch of ragtag college kids just trying to cobble together a nice allowance so they can buy half-price beers. But in the end, it's a fun place to hang out. Go to Woodstock's Pizza. You can look at their menu, woodstocksca.com. You can also order online if you want to eat Woodstock's Pizza at your own GD house. All right. So, Tory, what is the update? Where are we at in our picks? Because I'm trailing, but I have some stat corrections I want to make. I'm sorry, I didn't turn Tory on either. I'm the worst radio host. Steve Berman was right. Talk show hosts are the worst people alive, and I'm proving it because I'm not even letting my own panel talk.
You're trailing. You say you have stats, but
what do you have? Because I have other material.
I have taken the lead with 12-7-2.
12-7-2. Girls in sports,
is this against the spread, or is this just
it's against
straight
the
up?
Spread? So every week, Chad, and for the listeners, we pick the 3 nationally televised games: Thursday, Sunday, Monday, and then we each get to pick 2 of the Sunday games, whichever ones we want, our wild card games. So Tori's ahead. Who's next?
Joaquin and Danny are now tied at 11-8-2.
Oh, so I'm alone in last place.
So you were alone in last place.
And what am I?
9-10-2.
Danny, quiet.
A quarter could beat you.
I have some. I have some statistics. Okay, so I am 5-3 in my wild card picks this season. Those games that we have to pick, I'm doing terribly in. Joaquin is 4-4. Tory, you're 5-3. Danny, you're 5-3. I feel like I'm in the lead somehow. I feel like I am winning, or at least tied with you guys, because the games that I get to choose, that I get to select myself, I'm 5-3. That's not bad.
Whatever helps you sleep at night.
I don't sleep
That's
at
great.
night. I'm up no matter what, so I don't need to sleep. All right, let's go over.
You're like a less efficient Jim Fisher. Or,
who?
The Rams guy.
Oh,
Jeff Fisher.
Jeff Fisher.
Jeff Fisher. Jim Fisher's my uncle.
Did you really just?
Does he coach football too?
Just mistakenly name drop your own uncle on the show?
Next thing you know, his uncle's going to be Derek Fisher.
It's been an interesting night.
Yeah, Derek Fisher, Jimbo Fisher. Who are you related to in the sports world? All right, let's get to some picks, some compulsory games that we have to pick that I'm going to pick absolutely wrong because I do it every single time. We have to pick Giants and Niners, the Sunday night game. Danny, what do you do with this? The spread was 7.
I'm saying Giants -7. The Giants have scored 7 and 3 points in the last 2 weeks. They need to prove they can score more than a touchdown before I trust them to cover any spread. And, you talked last week about how the Niners might have something on the Packers. Well, I think Tom Coughlin has something on the Niners. So I think this is a blowout. I think the Niners, especially playing away from San Francisco, are just going to be awful.
Okay, Tory?
When was the last time we could say the Raiders are doing better than the Niners?
At 2003, 2002?
The offense is just inept. I mean, there's all the talk about Cap getting pulled. The 49ers are a hot mess. I can't see that changing anytime soon. I'm pretty sure their to-do list just says stop losing.
I tried to pick them, but bury the Niners. I came up with some catchphrases if they get the number 1 pick. Scoff for Goff, fall off for Goff, or trough for Goff. We're going to decide which one of those we like best and make it the official motto of the show. Chad, do you have any thoughts on the Niners versus the Giants?
Yeah, I'd take Giants -7, no doubt.
Okay.
They're on the road, and a touchdown that's a good game if the Niners only lose by a touchdown.
If it's a good game if the Niners score a touchdown.
Yeah.
Or if Colin Kaepernick throws or runs or even gets within earshot or eye shot of the touchdown.
Depends how many throws he makes off his back foot, probably.
I bet it's all of them. All right, another game we have to pick tomorrow night's game, Colts -1.5 over the Texans. I'm going to start on this one. Let's all just keep betting against the Texans. Can we just make that a policy here? Luck's shoulder doesn't worry me too much. The rest of their roster, not so good. But Pagano and Indy should get it done. They don't lose division games. They've won 15 straight games against the AFC South. That's an amazing run for any team, even though it's a terrible division. Tory, what do you got?
I wish it were possible, but J.J. Watt can't do everything. The Texans are bad and should feel bad.
They should feel bad? Like they should feel guilty about how bad they are?
The first episode of Hard Knocks this season was Bill O'Brien basically saying, we're terrible. We suck. We need to be better.
When you're right, you're right. All right, Danny.
You had me at Andrew Luck getting points against Houston.
I think he's giving 1.5, though, Danny.
As of earlier today, Colts +2.
Oh, okay. We're going to have to move the line then. Colts +2. Give us all the Colts.
Last I checked, it was +1.
Oh, we'll take it. All right, that line keeps jumping around. We'll take Colts +2. Lock it in before it changes. Chad, any thoughts?
Nah, Colts all the way. I don't think they're as bad as their record indicates. I think they're actually a much better team than they have been so far, and the Texans are just bad.
I'm worried about the internal strife between Pagano and management. It's not something you want to do while you have a world-beating quarterback who looks like he could be the next Joe Montana. So you got to get your house in order, Pagano and management. Like, I don't know what you're doing. Ryan Grigson, the whole thing is a mess. Let's move on. Chargers, Steelers. Chargers -3.5. Tory.
Gates is back. Big Ben is still out.
That's enough for you?
That's
you think
enough
Gates
for
is
me.
that much of a difference this late in his career? Hasn't played all year?
I think it's still going to be better than Michael Vick.
Okay. Chad, any thoughts?
Yeah, with Ben out, I just don't see how that, the Chargers don't win this game.
So you don't have a dog in this fight, though?
No, I don't have a dog.
We're going to make a
stop
Michael
those.
Vick joke every
That's
week.
just...
Welcome to the pit of despair. Danny, what's your pick?
See, this is a really interesting matchup because on the one hand, you've got a good quarterback and nothing around him. On the other side, you've got a really bad quarterback with everything around him.
Okay. You're talking about like Antonio Brown and good receiving core, Le'Veon Bell. Okay.
And Le'Veon Bell. I'm taking the points. I'm going Steelers +3.5.
Interesting. I so wanted the Steelers to cover last week. They had Baltimore. They had them, and they just missed some field goals, and Vic couldn't get it done in the right moments. I'm taking the Chargers. Something isn't right with this San Diego team when I watch them, and I figured out what it was. They are absolutely horrendous on the road. The offense is averaging over 30 points at home and under 20 on the road. Rivers is at home. He's been fantastic this season all around, but especially at home. Chargers -3.5. Lock that one in. I like that one. Probably better than any of these other games this week. And that's a compulsory game, so you can make fun of me if I miss it. All right, we're going to get into some wild cards now. Danny, kick us off with your first wild card game?
Okay. It served me well to this point, so I'm going with the Bills. Bills -2.5.
You know what? Me too, Danny.
Mariota.
That's one of mine, too.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Give me some reasons. Tell me why
Well,
I'm
I
right.
think Mariota had one really good game, and they haven't played a good defense yet. Bills are doing everything better than the Titans are right now.
I
2.5 is not very many points.
I see a bounce-back week for the Bills. You can trash them for losing to the Giants in Buffalo. The Giants are a pretty good team. The Giants have led in the fourth quarter in all 4 of their games, despite being 2-2. And the Bills lost to the Patriots, which is not anything to sniff at this season. The Patriots are really good. So I like the Bills minus 2.5. Tori?
I'm taking Bengals over Seahawks.
What's the spread in that one?
3 to the Seahawks.
Okay.
Seattle's defensive line is shaky, and the Bengals' front 4 are crazy good. So the Bengals are basically playing everything they've got.
What are you, a line specialist now? You watched 0 football before this season, and now you're judging people's offensive and defensive lines?
They're baby pictures of me in Jets onesies.
Okay.
I burned the evidence.
Analyzing Jets, analyzing Dan Klecko.
But I mean, the Bengals are hard to prepare for because they're literally just playing everything. It changes every week. So it's kind of tough to prepare for what you're going to be going up against when there's a different, breakout star every week.
That's a good point. They do have a really strangely effective offense despite Andy Dalton kind of being a limited player. Give us your second pick, Tori.
I am taking Falcons over the Washington National Football Team.
The Washington Nationals football team? It's the Washington Professional.
Refuse to say that mascot name, huh?
Well, the Eagles wouldn't even print it in their media guide. Previewing the game, the Eagles just kept referring to them as Washington, Washington, Washington.
Yeah, so Washington may have beat the Eagles, but this isn't the Eagles. The Falcons are undefeated. They're killing it. They're not losing at home to Washington.
Okay, Danny?
I'm taking Raiders plus 5 against the Broncos in Oakland.
Okay.
I think Peyton keeps winning these games, but just barely. And he might win this game, but it's not going to be by 5.
But it's the defense. The Broncos have the best defense in football, which no one will notice until Peyton Manning's not their quarterback. Everyone just assumes Peyton Manning is the team. They never have any defense. But this is a whole new regime. That defensive line is getting after quarterbacks. DeMarcus Ware is all up in people's grills. That's what he's done his entire career. So I like that defense. I like that pick, but I don't know in Oakland.
This is not a perfect comparison, but this is how Tebow survives.
Chad's headphones just fell off with surprise as you
headphones.
brought up Tim Tebow. Chad just tried to throw a jump pass and his headphones fell
I
off.
just Tebowed and my headphones came off.
Go ahead, Danny.
I mean, that team had an amazing defense, and people didn't really notice. But somehow, at the end of the game, after Tebow had thrown 6 passes for 2 completions and 40 yards, the team was still in it. And he could make those miraculous comebacks.
Okay.
I mean, the reason why is because the defense is great, and that's what's keeping the Broncos together right now.
Well, my last pick, the defense is not great for this team. I'm taking the Bears plus 9. Nobody wants to take the Bears this season, especially me, but Jay Cutler kind of looked rejuvenated against the Raiders. And I think Alshon Jeffrey is going to make an appearance in this game, which completely changes the way they play offense. In a low-scoring affair, which I expect it to be against the Chiefs, I will take the points, Bears plus 9. I like that pick as well, mostly because everyone should laugh at me for that.
How many interceptions is Cutler going to throw to Marcus Peters this week?
It doesn't matter. He's getting 9 points. How many points can the Chiefs score?
10.
Okay. I hate you so much. I'm going to shut you down, Dan.
I watched Alex Smith for too many years.
You did. And Niners fans have been cursed with Alex Smith and now Colin Kaepernick. So, boo-hoo 49ers fans. Go sit on your rings.
And I think your pick is great because Alex Smith has never before in his life seen a 2-score lead.
That's a good point. All right, Danny, those are our NFL picks. Once again, Woodstock's Pizza is our sponsor for this segment. Go there, watch the NFL Sunday Ticket. They have every game, local markets, out-of-market games. Danny, thank you for coming on, my friend.
Thank you.
Stop beating me. All right, we're done with that guy. All right, let's blow through we got some time to do some stories before Tory topics. Chad, let's bring it back around to baseball because we talked about this before the show, but Matt Williams is out as Nationals manager. They were supposed to win the World Series. Nay, they were supposed to make the playoffs. Nay, they were supposed to look like a competent Major League Baseball team. What happened?
I think it was a myriad of things. He was the National League Manager of the Year last year, and I think he was the darling pick, or the Nationals were the darling pick to win the World Series by a lot of baseball, quote, experts this year. But we know how those picks usually end up. In fact, looking at the postseason picks, I was kind of very interested in baseball tonight. Everybody had the Blue Jays on the American League side. as far as the ALCS was concerned,
Right.
which was really interesting to see that. But as far as the National is concerned, he just blew too many pitching managerial decisions, not only extending into last year against the Giants, but also this year against the Mets when the Mets swept them out in New York. And then you have additional problems where, there are reports that 2 months before spring training, he was trying to micromanage and plan every drill that they were going to run during spring training 2 months in advance. And then, of course, you have the Harper and Papelbon situation.
Now, do you think that was more indicative of why he got fired, or was that the reason he got fired?
I think it was just the straw that broke the camel's back.
Okay. Because
Absolutely.
the reporting from Washington Post and the beat writers over there said that he lost the clubhouse.
No, he absolutely lost the clubhouse before that. So I don't think it would have been a surprise if he was fired, even if that incident didn't happen. He probably would have.
He claimed not to see it. Who in
okay.
that dugout wouldn't see two guys screaming at each other?
Right. Even if he didn't see it, he's got a lot of bench coaches, and he's got other players, and he's got replay, and he's got. Someone would have told him, okay? And the fact that Papelbon choked his star player, if it was justified or not, doesn't matter. He physically assaulted another player. He puts him back out in the next inning.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Who does that?
And he pulled Harper.
And he pulled Harper for whatever reason.
Goodness.
But who does that? And I think that was absolutely an indication that, oh boy, that's it. He's done.
Well, Matt Williams, a good Giant.
Good Giant, bad manager. Mm-hmm.
Come back. We got a role for you. Some maybe PR or shag and fly balls or something. The Giants.
Yeah, I saw some Giants fans on Twitter, which was pretty interesting. Oh, let's bring him back as a bench coach. And it was like,
I like Ron Wotus.
I think Wotus is fine.
I mean, this could be the year where a Giants coach does get poached. Hensley Mullins or, like we said, Wotus. One of those guys could get a job somewhere
And it hasn't
else.
happened for so many years. It's pretty incredible.
It has to happen eventually. Maybe Mark Gardner becomes a pitching coach somewhere. Who knows? But, yeah, sorry, Matt Williams. Manager of the year, now manager of nobody. It happens, man. All right, we'll do one more story. Some college football. I know you don't watch too much, and neither do I, to be honest, but my Michigan State team slipped to number 4 after being number 2 and winning. How does that happen? Don't you have to lose to go down in the polls?
Yeah, because that was the AP of the coaches poll, right?
It was the AP poll. They were at number 2 behind Ohio State.
Yeah.
Ohio State won a 7-point game over Indiana, who's terrible. Michigan won a close one against Purdue, who's pretty terrible. Ohio State stays number 1. Michigan State falls down to number 4. How does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, we're not dealing with RPI rankings here. We're not, considering strength of schedule when we're talking about human beings voting. So I don't know. There must have been some sort of innocuous thing that maybe the writers know about. I mean, I haven't heard any stories because I saw that and I thought it was a little peculiar too.
I think everyone's jumping on this Baylor TCU thing because they score 50, 60 points a game. That I think they're just falling in love with that. But you got to remember, in the national championship game, nobody scores 60 points.
No,
it's low-scoring affairs. Even that Oregon-Auburn game years ago was like 22-19. Big offenses don't make it because the big defenses are the ones that stay alive. In what's now the college football playoff. 8 teams, do you think it should be college football playoff?
Absolutely.
I harp on this every week. What's wrong with 8 teams? That's the perfect number.
Well, they always claim that there's not enough, it's too many games for the kids. And I understand that point, but then I would also say, well, then we got to look at these conference championship games.
They don't care about the kids. They've never
of course
cared about the
don't.
kids.
Of course
Ed
they
O'Bannon's
don't. That's
in
what they
court
fall
arguing
back
every day
on.
that no one's ever cared about the kids.
No, it's very true. But if that were really the case, then why don't you cut out the conference championship games? They're not necessary.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, we're going to go to our last sponsor break and then bring producer Tory on to do Tory Topics. On Walnut Street between Pacific Ave and Cedar, 99 Bottles is the prime spot in downtown Santa Cruz for dining and entertainment. Drink selections from domestic to hard-to-find beers, a full bar. They have over 100 choices of things that you can drink. A nice double-sided bar. They've got a patio. Bring your dog. You get a nice view of downtown. You can go upstairs and watch sports on the big TV. You can watch it behind the bar or just sit in the restaurant and relax. They've got trivia night there. They've got beer specials, happy hour. 99 is truly a fun place for sports fans and for fun, casual dining in Santa Cruz. Once again, 99 Bottles on Walnut between Pacific and Cedar. All right, everyone's favorite segment of the show, Tory Topics, where she's going to come on and convince me that Rajon Rondo is not a horrible basketball player. Go. Okay, you lost. Rajon Rondo is a horrible basketball player.
George Karl said that Rondo drew up the last play, like during regulation. It was a play that the Kings don't even have in their playbook, and it was possibly an old play designed for Paul Pierce.
So he's a good coach?
I just thought it was interesting.
Can he shoot?
He was bringing new things to the table.
Can he make a free throw? I've never seen someone so skinny and so small not be able to make free throws. I've seen the big guys. I've seen Shaq, who can't even wrap his hands around the ball properly, can't figure out which hand to shoot it with, to be honest.
Can't even know to not step over the line.
I've seen DeAndre Jordan miss everything because he doesn't know where the ball's going. But I've never seen a guard who has to have shot hundreds of thousands of times in his life not be able to sink a free throw. You can defend him all you want. I think it's going to be a disaster. He's been a disaster where he's gone the last couple of stops.
So then let's talk about Marco Bellinelli starting the season by dropping 32 points.
He didn't start the season. He started the
preseason.
The preseason.
Sorry. Started preseason.
He pre-started to score
excited.
32 points. I scored 32 points in pickup the other day. Whatever.
People are already talking about Boogie being the sleeper MVP.
That's fine if he's not sleeping by game 35. I've watched him nap through games before. I went and saw them whoop on the Knicks last season. He didn't even play inside. He's like, I'm not even going to back to the basket. He was just shooting 18-footers and draining them. He's so talented, but I worry that he's not going to try.
I'm just so looking forward to the Kings this season.
All right, non-King stories. Let's go.
Okay, Steph Curry still on fire. Threw a 3. High fives Iggy before the ball even goes in,
And
not
Iggy-
even looking.
Iggy, as we mentioned, is not in the game. He's on the bench. Did you see this, Chad?
Oh, man, it was fantastic. I mean, he did this a couple of times last year where he would fire it up and just turn the other way and run down the court. I mean, he just... Look, we've all had that moment before where we get in the zone and you shoot it and you know it's going in. There's still
You're talking
like...
about at the bar, hitting on chicks? Is that what
Pretty
we're
much,
talking about?
pretty
Yeah,
much.
okay.
No, but like one time I had a 5. I mean, you're like, oh, that's not in. We have yet to see Curry do one of those kind of pre-shot celebrations and, eat crow.
And miss. Well, Nick Young famously did it for the Lakers. He started to shimmy and raise his arms, and then it was a massive brick, which was the funniest part. That's the difference between Steph Curry.
Mm-hmm.
They can win the title this year again, right? There's no hangover season coming.
I don't think there's going to be a sophomore slump or anything like that. I mean, their team's back together. They got Kerr. I mean, I think they're even.
Well, they don't have Kerr.
Well, yeah, he's laid up right now. That's
Yeah.
true. They're going to have him for the regular season, but no, there's no reason aside from injury that they shouldn't repeat.
Oh, don't even say that word. If a Splash Brother goes down, that would be so sad. They're so much fun to watch play together.
Sniper.
Well, and it wasn't even about Curry just draining that 3 and not caring. It was the behind-the-back fake-out, broke a dude's ankles who's next to him, fires the ball over, and then just drifts casually into the corner and fires up the most casual 3 you've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Iggy didn't even see the high five for 2 full seconds. Curry just waited for it, and then Iggy lost his mind, and it was so good. All right, next story.
The revolution is real. Through the first 9 preseason games, power forwards and centers combined to attempt 88 threes.
Oh, man. Is this a lot of Anthony Davis, the Pelicans forward? They're trying to split him out and try to get him to get 3-point range to open up his game.
Everyone's trying for threes now. I mean, the Team USA, practice games, they were just shooting threes to shoot threes. Blake Griffin is starting to shoot threes.
I know. Well, I know. And that's the thing, because he's in that dead zone where he's taking 19-footers. And, even if you make 42, 43% of them, that's not a valuable shot. You're better with your back to the basket, but you get beat up like that. A guy like Blake Griffin takes a lot of shots when he plays back to the basket. So you don't get hurt when you play on the perimeter, but you also, if you're not that effective, you actually don't space out the defense. Look at Tony Allen on the Grizzlies against the Warriors last year. They left him open all day, and it changed the entire series. So look out, big men. Stay near the paint.
They're just having fun in the preseason.
I hope so. I don't want to see a game where you're just jacking up threes like my idiot friends do. It's very frustrating.
So last month, the NFL boasted on what they thought to be the first arrest-free month since 2009.
What they thought to be?
Because it turns out, thanks to Titans rookie receiver green-beckham, he was arrested just hours before the start of
I think
October.
his name's Dorial Green-Beckham?
Yeah.
All right, I nailed that one. I feel confident. I've read enough
Just
fantasy football articles now.
Hours before the start of October.
Does he get an extra fine for that?
Does he get taken out to dinner? Does Greg Hardy take him out to dinner or something? I don't know. Did you guys see what Greg Hardy said when he was interviewed today?
He's coming out guns blazing.
He has no remorse whatsoever.
Nope.
Judge convicts him of domestic violence. He asks for a jury trial. They don't want to give him a jury trial. The woman disappears. because she doesn't want to have to go through the whole court process again, which is part of the reason why a lot of these things get settled out of court, because nobody wants to drag a celebrity through the mud, because you're the one who ends up getting hit with most of the mud. So she disappears. He thinks he's off scot-free. His NFL suspension's reduced. Now he's making jokes about Tom Brady's wife. An idiot reporter asked him
how he
about...
picks his Pro Bowl team.
Yeah, asked him about Blake Bortles' wife. Blake Bortles isn't even married. This is the worst reporter I've ever heard of. That guy should be fired. Greg Hardy needs to shut up, play football, and be lucky he's allowed to play football.
Yeah, he's got another thing coming to him. He's playing for the Cowboys. He's starting this week, and so I think it's just a matter of time.
They don't care about his history.
Jerry Jones and those guys don't care.
Sacks,
Of course, yeah, he's a great player, but I just think with 12 games left, something's going to happen.
Yeah. All right, Tori.
Let's talk about the Bills-Giants game.
Okay.
First off, Bills coaches have started having players do push-ups at practice if they commit a penalty.
17 penalties in that game. And Rex Ryan said it was a good thing. I mean, he didn't mean it was a good thing, but he said he liked the fire in his team. Penalties are not fire. That's mistakes. That's mental.
Are these guys really going to stop committing penalties because they have to do push-ups?
I mean, they might stop committing good plays because they're afraid they're going to commit penalties to do push-ups. But isn't this like 12-year-old logic?
Oh, that's what I mean. I mean, this is like
if you
a
don't
little
do your
league team,
chores, if you don't do your chores,
Pop Warner
you do push-ups.
team. Yeah,
Running laps every time you miss a goal.
This doesn't work on professional athletes. I think this has been proven before.
Coach
This
Boone
is what
and
you
Remember
do
the
for
Titans.
varsity players in high school.
Yes.
Maybe they should take the players to Gettysburg like Coach Boone and Remember the Titans.
Or like, what was it? The Dolphins coaches had the offense and defense start doing Oklahoma drills.
Oh, when Joe Philbin got fired and they brought in the tight ends coach, the old tight end, I can't remember his name, Dan Campbell. They started doing the Oklahoma drill. And it's like, are you that blind to like CTE and concussions and injuries? You really want your guys doing that? That's ridiculous. If Ndamukong Suh blows out an ACL on an Oklahoma drill, that guy's not only fired, he never works again in football. So that's ridiculous. Let's just go watch Remember the Titans.
Let's do that.
That's what makes me feel good about football. All right, Tori, one more story.
So back